Welcome back to our next tutorial in Scratch. We're going to be working on a couple of major concepts, or really integral concepts. These are basic functionality that are going to be used throughout everything we do going forward. The key thing that we're learning today is to use buttons. So you'll see that here. Okay, we're learning about buttons, and we're going to be going over a little bit more about costumes, broadcasting and receiving, which is part of how buttons work, and then applying events. Okay, so these are the main concepts that you'll need to understand. So let's take a look at what we're doing here. First of all, I'm just going to show you what the end result should look like. So I'm going to just open this guy up here. You see this in full screen here. Okay, and so I run this. There are 3 buttons and 3 dynos. And if I click this, it rotates or turns that guy there. If I do this one, it makes the dyno move up. And this one, every time I click it, it goes to the next costume. Okay, so that's what this looks like. Let's see how we get there. Here. Okay, so I've already set up my stage here with my dynos. To create your dynos, you're just going to go and add a new sprite, go and find the dinosaur that you want, and please use the same one that I'm using so that your finished work looks the same as my finished work. Here he is, dinosaur 4. Okay, we're going to be using that guy. Once you've got one in there, when you need to make the extras, you're just going to right click and duplicate, and then rename each of them dinosaur 1, dinosaur 2, dinosaur 3. I've got these set up by using -150 and 50 as my XY coordinates. This one is 0 and 50, and this one is +150 and 50. And then the buttons are just a little lower. Okay, those are -150, 0, and 150, and the X, and then they're all on the -100 Y line. Okay, so set that up yourself. The thing we're going to be learning today is how to send information from a button to another sprite. Okay, if I wanted this sprite to rotate, I'm going to click on this dinosaur here. We already kind of know this. I could just click this and I could rotate this by doing that. If I want it to happen forever, I'm just going to go into my forever loop, put that there, and there we go. Now it rotates forever. But the key to this is that we want this to happen when the button tells it to happen. So I'm going to stop that right there, get rid of this. Actually, we'll keep it here. And I'm going to go to the button. So we're going to go to first button 1, which is this one here. What I need to do is I need to go and create a broadcast. So a broadcast is here. We're going to say broadcast a message. And that's going to happen when the sprite is clicked. So I'm going to put this here. This is when this sprite, okay, this sprite right here, the one that's selected, is clicked. It's going to broadcast a message. Right now, it's going to broadcast message 1. Now, you could leave it here, but it's bad form. So we're going to go in here and we're going to put in a kind of a meaningful name. What are we trying to do here? Well, we're trying to make the dinosaur spin. So we're going to call this message spin. Okay, let's go back over to our dinosaur. What we want to happen here now is instead of just happening like this whenever this is run, we want to tie this to this broadcast that's happening. Okay, broadcast. So let's go back over here. We're going to say here, when I receive the message spin, which is the only option, I'm going to then run this. So now if you click this guy, you'll notice this button is now broadcasting the message spin. This dinosaur is receiving the message spin, and when it receives it forever, it starts turning. Okay, and that's pretty straightforward. The next button is going to be a similar kind of thing. We're going to go over to this button here. Again, notice that there's no code blocks here because we've only added it to these 2. I'm going to have to add separate code to this button. This time what we want to do is we want to move this dinosaur up. So it's a similar situation. I want to, again, broadcast. So I'm going to say when this sprite is clicked, I want to broadcast, and I'm going to change it to a new message. I'm going to go new message. This one is going to be called move, capital U for up. And I put a second. This is pretty common in any kind of coding syntax. If you have 2 words, to differentiate them, use a capital in the second word to make it easier, rather than that. If you have a long string here, it's harder to tell. So if you make it a capital U, that's easier to work with. Okay, and that's pretty common in any kind of coding language. I hit OK here. Okay, so now we have this button has got the code on it, and when I click it, it's going to broadcast. And you can see, oops, I'm clicking here. You can see that yellow line shows up here very quickly, very briefly. I'm not even sure if you can notice it, but it means that that is running. The problem is nothing is receiving this broadcast. We need to go over to Dinosaur 2, and we have to say, when I receive the move up message, that's when I'm going to do the thing that I've been waiting to happen. So I'm going to go forever, and I'm going to go to my motion, and I'm going to move it up by, let's say, so I'm going to change Y by, let's make it 2. Okay. And that would be singular. This would be forever. And now we're just going to tie that to this. Okay, I'm going to bring this back down here. Okay, and now when I click that, off he goes. Okay, and that should be pretty straightforward too. Now, I can, because these buttons here are saying to broadcast these different messages, I can also do this. I can go over to this dinosaur here that has this code. And if I just copy on my keyboard, Command C, and come back over to this second dinosaur, this one here, and Command V, and I paste that in, I've now got when I receive this, or when I receive either of these messages, it's going to do this thing. So if I click this, because both of these two dinosaurs have that code for the spin on it, okay, they are both doing that. I'll stop that right there. The second one I haven't copied over, so you notice that the move up code is only here on our second dinosaur. It doesn't have it here. So if I click this, only this one moves up. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to bring that down, bring this guy back down. Notice that the move up actually stops at the very top of the stage. It won't go beyond. So we'll click that. It'll continue up, but it'll stop at the extent of the stage. It's actually still running. You can see the yellow line around this code. It's still running that piece of code block, but because of the, if I move this down, you'll see it continues, right? So it's still doing it. It just is stopping because of the extent. So I'm going to stop right there, and we'll bring this guy back down. Okay, and we can set that back to 90. And set this back to 90, and you can put your positions back in. I'm just going to rough them out. That was -150 and 0, whatever. That's fine for now. All right, I'm going to remove. We'll keep this one like that. That's going to be spin. We're going to get rid of the spin from this one, and we'll keep move up. And then on our last dinosaur, we're going to have another broadcast. So the button is going to say, when this sprite is clicked, it's going to broadcast a new message. That new message is going to be change costume. Okay. And on our dinosaur, we're going to just go to when I receive, change costume. Okay. We're going to go to looks, and we're going to go to next costume. And that's all that's going to do is just change. If you remember in costumes, we go here. Each of these dinosaurs has got 1, 2, 3, 4 costumes. And all that's going to happen is when we click this, the dinosaur is going to go through and change to the next available costume. And because we're going to add this onto the receive, it's going to happen every time we hit the button. We could, if we wanted to, put this as well in a loop, but then it gets a little bit too quick to see what's happening and just kind of running along like that. If I wanted to, I could put in like a delay here. I put that in between, it will go forever, wait a second, and then do the costume. Actually, it probably makes sense to do it the other way around, like that. So it'd go next costume and then wait, and then repeat that, right? And so you can see there's like a second delay between each one. If I wanted to make that, say, 0.1, that would speed that up significantly. But for what we need, I'm just going to pull all this apart, stop that, get rid of these guys, and we're just going to put on next costume so that when I click the button, it's just going to go to the next costume. Okay, and that's that. Those are now working the way I want them to work. The last thing I'm going to have you do is using this button. It can be, this button right here. We're going to add that in, and we're going to add a piece of script to this that's going to stop all of these motions and reset their positions to their original positions. Okay, those were -150 by 50, 0 by 50, and +150 by 50. Okay, so that we stop those and reset their positions. That's the challenge for this tutorial. That's about it. It's pretty straightforward. You have all the tools that you need to understand this. You should be able to think this through. It's a problem-solving exercise, and it's not very complicated. If you're not sure, just go back and revisit the idea. Remember that what's happening with this broadcast, it's kind of like yelling at instruction. It's yelling, and then whoever is listening for that is going to receive that message. Okay, so it's like this button is yelling change costume, and this guy's listening for that. This button is yelling move up, and this guy is listening for that instruction. Okay, and that's kind of the basics. And hopefully that makes sense. Make sure that when you're done, you name this accordingly. Okay, just 3-2-Dino buttons. You don't need to put demo in there. That's just mine. And then you're going to add the work to your blog. Remember to include a written description. Okay, that's in Brightspace. Read the assignment. It tells you what to include. Remember to name this and include the HTML embed code so that I can view your project in your website. Remember to include a link so that I can go and see your work. And also remember to add comments. Okay, so make sure that you're explaining what each thing is doing so that I know that you understand each piece. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Good luck with it. And when you're done, you're going to move on and do the quiz, which you'll see is in there's a quiz for this guy. There's a mini quiz. Okay, so make sure that you understand all the concepts covered in this tutorial. All right, best of luck.